welcome to the World of Horror Podcast, episode 97. I'm Mom.
And I'm Mac.
This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Fear is universal, but we are not afraid of subtitles. What? This week, we are going slightly off program to bring you a pair of movies by one of our favorite actors, Kang-ho. This week, we looked at The Host from South Korea and Parasite from South Korea. Before we get into it, fair warning, these discussions will include spoilers and language which may not be suitable for all listeners. Let's move on to our first segment, Mom and Mac Chat. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
It's going good. Well, it's really rainy, isn't it? It's kind of gloomy.
It's not here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang. It's been so nasty. Yeah. That's not fair. My front yard is an absolute fucking mess. Okay, I need to tell you about this. My life isn't very eventful, but this has me incensed. Okay, so my front yard, as I said, looks like shit, and I haven't ever raked the leaves on it. That's from all of fall, and now the grass is growing underneath it. And I have a landlord, and I know they're like, this looks like shit. So I call up, I literally look up my city name, lawn care, and I picked the one with the most reviews that said the highest thing, called them up. They came over, gave me an estimate. I was like, great. And then he stood me up 4 separate times.
Wow.
4, I'll be there on Saturday morning, can't make it. I'll be there Thursday, can't make it. Friday, I'll either be here this day or Sunday. Friday doesn't make it. Sunday, I text him, you coming over? Doesn't even text me back. So actually, my dad gave me his guy because he, I guess, does my area too. But then he was like, well, I can't do anything until it stops raining. So I just keep looking at my lawn. It just looks so, I know I shouldn't be thinking this, but every time somebody walks by, I'm just like, I know it looks bad. And I just know I'll feel so much better when it looks better.
Yeah.
It's not even because I'm like, oh, I must, I'm not the American, gotta have my lawn. It's more like, this place definitely has some kind of HOA. I'm scared.
Yeah, I got you. I have a leaf situation, and I think you've seen my backyard. It's enormous, and it's on a slope. So I'm just like, that's going to be a bitch to mow. So guess what? I probably am not going to be the person who does that.
Good choice.
I have this very rickety. Welcome to Lawn Talk, by the way.
Lawn Talk with Mom and Mac.
I have a shed in the back that's basically falling apart, and I've been looking at my neighbor's shed, which is basically 2 or 3 times the size of mine, and I am like, why am I this person now that I'm opening my neighbor's shed? What would I even put in there? I have a lawnmower and some cleaning thingies, but other than that, I don't have a lot. But yeah.
When Alan and I were looking at this place, it had a shed, and I had the thought of wow, a shed, that is so nice. And I have not opened that shed since we've moved in. It's locked and it has not been opened, and I won't open it. I don't have anything to put in there. Also, it's probably full of bugs. I can't lie. I think I unfortunately have become a city boy. I'm such a wuss when it comes to wildlife. I'm just like, oh, it's icky.
Well, I gotta tell you, when we get into Host, I learned some stuff from watching the special features on the DVD.
Oh,
and, I have a whole lot of respect for that cast and crew because they did shoot in the sewers.
Stop. I was wondering. I was like, wow, this looks so realistic. Is that poop water?
Yeah, it was probably they showed shots of everybody getting beforehand. And they were all assigned different hospitals should anyone have to go.
What? That's next level. Is
Yeah, it
that
totally is.
that might be on the level of like The Shining, honestly.
It's some one of the special features, and they distorted all the crew members' voices, and they're basically shit talking what a bad production it was. But I think they were like,
Yeah.
you know, because first I'm like, oh my god, this sounds terrible because I'm so gullible. But they got me when they were like, I'll never work with the director again because he didn't even have the script finished when we started shooting. And I'm like, okay, that's not
Yeah, it can't be
like
true.
Bong Joon-ho is like meticulous. Like he doesn't even shoot extra stuff. He just shoots like what he wants to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
You look so handsome, Mac.
Go on. You look
Was
so beautiful. What a lovely smile.
how was your haircut? Was it a new person?
Yes, I'm trying to be careful. I had the best stylist ever. You don't usually have this happen where you actually have a person that you can go to who you give them a photo and it's perfect. And it was recommended to me by a family member and who still goes to the stylist. And I had to stop going to the stylist, unfortunately, despite her being so talented, because she was a raging Republican.
Oh no.
Literally, last time I went there, it was on the Democratic primary in 2016. I had an I voted sticker, and she said, I bet I can guess who you voted for. And then she was like, if we have different opinions, can we still be friends? And I said, that depends. And the answer was no. So I've been on the hunt, and I always go to Arrow, and they always do me dirty, but I keep going because it's easy.
Arrow?
It's like a North Carolina, really like Raleigh area chain. It's kind of like a step up from Sports Clips.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like, I guess for me as like somebody in my late 20s, everybody who works there is in their late 20s or 30s. And it just has a different vibe than like Sports Clips or Great Clips, you know?
Yeah.
But they're not good. It's not any better. But this lady was great. Well, she didn't do the best job, but I loved talking to her. She was so funny. She had me like rolling. She was telling me she and her boyfriend moved in, and I'm just gonna tell her whole life story. And he has a 9-year-old daughter, and she was just telling me like, I don't mean to sound rude, but I hope they're not home when I get home because I just don't want to talk to anybody. And I was like, I understand. And she was like, this has showed me I can't have my own kids. And I said, I can't either. I'm too selfish. She said, selfish, yes. So it was great.
Good. That's good. I used to go to this lady, but first of all, she's closer now that I have moved, but she's in a different city. And it's a lot of money to me. I mean, that's relative. People spend like all kinds of money on their hair, but to me, there's a certain level, and I'm like, I just would rather not spend that much money on my hair every 4 weeks or whatever. So I've been going to Great Clips, and because basically all I do is get the ends trimmed and the undercut shaved. And I found this really nice guy at the new one that's close to me, but I only want to go see him because no one has ever done, like, Great Clips is not great. I mean, it's fine, but he did an awesome job on my hair, so now he's the only one I want to go to. So, but even
the unicorn.
College, I used to go, even in college, I used to go to the barber shop because I had such a simple hairstyle that I'm like, why? But anyway, welcome to Hair Talk with the hairs.
Hey. It's so funny that like I do feel so like attached to this last name, and it sounds so natural to be the hairs, and yet neither of us have like no blood relation to the
I know, it's so crazy.
The namesake.
Yeah, it's my ex-husband's stepfather's last name.
Like nothing to do with us.
And it's a pretty big name in North Carolina, actually. And
really?
So people are like, are you related to the so-and-so hairs? And I'm like, Nope,
Absolutely not.
for sure I'm not.
No way.
Yeah, so I know, but I am so um, attached to it too. I did think for a while if going, well, I didn't want to go back to my maiden name. Well, I was just this name for so long, like
Yeah.
professionally and everything, and so no, and
Yeah.
um, and then like who? I mean, I would have to make up a name because I don't really
Yeah.
like the people I came from. So it's like
that would be hard.
Yeah, well, actually, it's so funny because before I met your dad, I was going to change my name to Bear.
Ooh. Ooh, that's cool.
And then
Like
married a guy
last
named
name?
Hare.
Like last name, not first name?
Yeah, like
Oh.
Chris Bear or Christina Bear or whatever.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the same sound anyway.
Yeah, who cares? Anyway,
Yeah.
so I am really attached to it too, but now it's just mine. No one. It's like Tina
Oh,
Turner.
yeah.
No one can take it from me anymore. Me and Tina Turner, we're like so alike. In
Very
so
similar.
Many ways. I mean, people have said that.
People
for years.
have stopped you on the street and been like, I'm so sorry. Has anybody ever asked you that? Like, when I look at you, I can't explain, but I just think Tina Turner.
And I'm like, I know.
It happens weekly.
It's this uncanny spiritual connection that we have. Oh my god, it's like super pretentious, like Tina Turner.
Okay, I have to. God help me if this person ever somehow listens to this podcast. This is a person I've never actually met. They were like, I used to be in a really messy, I'm not even gonna say friend group, but like a circle, in college, and there was this one person that was like both hated and loved. I don't know. I never met them, so I had no opinion. But I was told by someone that they thought that they were the reincarnation of who was the woman that died with the Manson murders? Sharon
Stone. Yeah,
Sharon
Stone.
Her baby that never got born. Sharon Tate. Yeah.
Wait,
Sharon Tate's unborn dude.
Uh-huh. Well, that's you know what that is? That's schizophrenia. That's what that is.
And the friend that told me this was like, and there are some things that make sense. And I was like, no, there's not. No, there's not.
Sorry. What makes sense is they need to go see somebody and get some meds and get on them stat.
Like that's I say this as somebody who enjoys looking at astrology. Like I really do like astrology. That's like astrology on roids.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
mental illness. And we should laugh. Because otherwise. Oh gosh, that's too bad. But so this was a really charismatic person, like sort of like sort of attached to your friend group somehow.
Even the person that was friends with them was like always shit talked them.
Oh.
This friend group was just not great.
Toxic, yeah.
They all shit talked each other. So
okay.
I'm not friends with them anymore, is what I'm trying to say.
College is a weird time. I mean,
yes.
I'm not really friends with anyone I was friends with in college. Like, there's one guy who always cheers me on whenever I do anything in Strava.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, but I just wasn't I don't like this expression, but I wasn't my best self in college, shall we say. I mean, I was like, I don't even want to talk about it, but I don't like who I was at that time. So it's okay. Like, I'd rather be friends with the friends I'm with now than the friends I was friends with in college. I mean, there are people like Bridget, who I know, Bridget and Ben, I knew when I was a kid, basically, that I'm still friends with. But
when you're friends with people that you were friends with from different stages at your life, it is just weird when like they might not even be stuck in that same stage, but your friendship is, but you're not anymore.
Yeah.
I have that with a lot of people that I know where it's like, I like you, but like, I don't know, we almost have to get to know each other over again. And that for some reason is just not it's feeling kind of awkward. So maybe we could just, wave.
I mean, I'm not really super close with anybody, like that from my past.
Mm-hmm.
Or now. No, that's
No!
not true.
What are you talking about?
No, that's not. That's not even. I don't know why. That's not funny.
Just not close to anybody. It's like the same energy as like, I just don't like music. Like, what?
That's so weird. I can't remember who I was talking to about that. I think I was doing an aesthetics lesson, and I was talking about that, like how on a date one time somebody just said they didn't like music, and I was like, "What?
Wah, wah.
Sorry, yeah, I gotta go.
No second date for you.
No music? You don't like any music?
Nope.
I just don't really like music. I mean, that's such a weird statement.
Yeah, like, how? What do you do? What do you do with your day? So much of my day is listening to music, humming, singing, like tapping a little beat. Like, you just sit. I like it like this.
Actually, this is like super tangential, but I was listening to the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia podcast, or It's Always Sunny podcast. And Charlie Day said that his parents had a car that didn't have a radio in it because it was cheaper to get the car without the radio in it. And like they were into music, like kind of classical music. Like I think they were both musicians, maybe.
Oh.
So they would listen to music at home, but they just didn't have music in the car. And then when he like adopted the car, he just drove around with a boombox.
Oh. I mean, you got to make do. I would do the same thing. Well, this isn't the same level because people just lived like this. I'm going to sound like such a young person, but my first car, like I was just so used to having cars with aux cords and an aux cord. And, but it was kind of cute making CDs, but it was sometimes just like, man, Spotify has just changed me. Like I do remember the time before Spotify, but now after the time of Spotify, it's like, if I have a world of music at my fingertips, I just want to use that.
Yeah, I'm with you totally. I mean, everything goes through my phone, and Mr. C a few years ago put this like Bluetooth speaker thing in my car so that, I just like hit a button and then the stuff comes through the car speakers. So
perfect.
That's like the best gift anyone has ever gotten me. Honestly,
very sweet, very thoughtful,
extremely thoughtful.
Like something that you're going to use basically every day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that was a really eclectic Mom and Mac chat.
We had some stuff to go over.
I guess. Do you want to talk about? I have a little bit of trivia for the man of the hour, and then maybe we can get into the host. So Song Kang-ho was born January 17th, 1967, which we found out the other day coincidentally is the same date as Mac's dad, like exactly.
Amazing. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, same year too.
Yeah. He's married. He has 2 kids. He got married like in the 90s. He's got 2 kids. He studied at the Department of Broadcasting and Entertainment at Gyeongsang National University in Busan. He started acting in the theater, and his first movie credit was as an extra in 1996's The Day a Pig Fell into a Well, and he now has 37 acting credits on IMDb with 2 upcoming. He has won 60 out of the 63 awards he has been nominated for, including Best Actor last year at Cannes. He was the first Korean actor to win that award. He has worked with directors Bong Joon-ho and Kim Ji-woon 4 times, and with Park Chan-wook 5 times.
I mean, I'm with the directors. If you find him, it is like just be in everything. Can you be in my thing again,
Yeah, and
please?
there were a couple. I think he's been with Yi Chang Dong twice, the guy who did
Mm-hmm.
Burning, and
Ah.
yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
and there was something on the special features of the host where director Bong said that he kind of just wanted to have. I mean, he likes working with new people, but for this one, he
Mm-hmm.
knew it was going to be a very tough shoot, and so
Mm-hmm.
he wanted people he knew and that
Mm-hmm.
he knew kind of could handle it. So he used Song for that, and then also Bei Duna. Anyway, do you want to get into the host, Matt?
So here's the brief plot synopsis from IMDb. A monster emerges from Seoul's Han River and begins attacking people. One victim's loving family does what it can do to rescue her from its clutches. It was directed by Bong Joon-ho and written by Bong Joon-ho, Ha Won-jun, and Baek Chul-hyun, starring Song Kang-ho, Byung Hee-bong, Park Hae-il, Bae Doona, Go Ah-sung, and Oh Dal-soo. Cinematography by Kim Hyung-koo. Excuse my pronunciation. It was released July 27th, 2006 in South Korea and September 2nd, 2006 in Japan, with a runtime of 120 minutes. Usually not my favorite runtime, but for Bong Joon-ho movies, I make the exception. I watched both of these today, and that was kind of a, like, watch Parasite, and I was like, all right, and watch
Wow.
those. We got a new TV, and like I'm gonna be this person now. Like I was like, why would I watch it on my computer? I got this new TV.
Oh yeah.
So mom watched it on Canopy, then DVD. I watched it on YouTube with ads. All right. So in 2000, an American military pathologist orders his Korean assistant to dump 200 bottles of formaldehyde down a drain leading into the Han River. Man, I have worked in a science career with chemicals, and I understand. Like, I was kind of taking a moment to kind of be like, what kind of like allegories could I connect with all of these? You know, since I was watching it like a second time and I knew what was going on. And like I know this is just kind of like a basic like saving time, dumping things without like a regard for human life. But it was crazy because man, if this happened at my old job, like the way you would have been fired so fast. Like they were so intense about all the chemicals. There was like things in meetings popping up like weekly of like, hey, we saw somebody do it like this. You can't do it like this. Which is good. You should be like that.
Matt, can I blow your mind for a second?
Please.
This is based on a real event,
Stop. Like, yeah, it does make sense.
and it was 400 bottles of formaldehyde.
This, and it's such a great scene because, like, you know, the Korean assistant is like, hey, that's toxic. And, you know, his American, you know, supervisor is just like, just do it. And also he comments on how dusty they are. Dog, that's every lab I've ever seen. But there's just a great shot as he's pouring it down, and there's like steam coming up, and it then just pans over bottles and bottles, and you don't realize it's going to keep going. And there's just so many more bottles, and you understand the magnitude of it.
Yeah.
So then, over the next several years, there are sightings of a strange amphibious creature in the waterway, and the fish in the river die off. There's a scene where, and I do think the movie does a good job of highlighting the water and just kind of like how nasty it looks. Like, and, you know, I've gone to, you know, New York and like, what's the name of the park?
Central Park or
Yeah, Central Park. You know, it is very pretty, but man, all those like ponds and stuff are so fucking nasty. And yeah, there's a scene of like these two fishermen and like, you know, they kind of pick up a fish in a cup and they're like, how many legs is that? But you don't actually see it. So now it's 2006. There's a slow-witted man named Park Gong-do who runs a small snack bar, and this is our man of the hour, Song Kang-ho. He's, you know, he's got like his roots showing of like a bad dye job and is wearing like, you know, baggy green sweatshirt, you know, just kind of like a slobby, sweet looking man. doing his best, but it's not enough.
Well, the first time we see him, he's passed out,
Yeah.
with his face like on some coins, I think. Like,
And the nice person is like, takes like the change, doesn't steal, like pays for the thing. I thought that was nice. So, yes, Park Gong-do runs a small snack bar in a park near the river with his father, Hee-bong, who I love the way this old man looks. So there's some other family members. We have Gong-do's daughter, Hyun-seo, who is this like adorable little girl in this, I guess is her school outfit. Sister Namju, who is a national medalist archer, and his brother Nam-il, a alcoholic college graduate and former political activist. I I loved I grew to love that character so much throughout the movie.
well, you'll be excited when you come visit me next week because that's the same actor who was featured in Decision to Leave.
What? Oh, I'm so excited because I thought he was so funny. So, there's like, just a funny little moment like, the dad's like, go feed these people, these squids, and he just like grabs a tentacle off and just eats it. But then his sister is, competing in this archery competition. So then he leaves it and dad has to go back and get it from burning. And later he's giving him like a talking to, like, listen, it's such a serious thing over something like so silly. This movie makes me laugh out loud so many times. Dad's like, listen, they said that there was a leg missing. When they order a squid, they're hoping for the 10 legs. They're the best part. And just the way Kong-du's like not listening, and then the dad, he's put like the leg he was eating in his sweatshirt, and the dad grabs it and starts eating it. I just love them. So, he's going to bring over some extra beer and another squid to those people on the house when everybody starts noticing this creature that's hanging down from a bridge. And yeah, it's just this giant and green amphibious nasty looking thing. And I love this scene so much. I feel like this whole set of events is like such an iconic moment from this movie. Everybody's watching as the creature goes into the river, and then Gong-do starts because they're all just looking at it, and Gong-do throws a beer into it and it grabs it with his tail, and then just everybody starts throwing food into the river. And I do love this because you can tell there's all these tourists there. There's just like a bunch of people from, it's like all different places, it seems like. But then the creature emerges and begins attacking people. And Hyun-seo and the grandpa, distracted by the archery competition, where it was a really gripping moment, but the sister takes too much time and misses and loses and can only get the bronze medal. She walks out, and and everybody is coming from behind. So he grabs her hand, but they get knocked down. He grabs again what he thinks is her hand, but when he looks back, it's another little girl wearing the same uniform. And then he looks, and Hyun-seo is taken by the tail of the creature into the water, and it's eaten a bunch of other people too. And they assume she's dead. I love this chase scene. There's a little bit where he's, it's a lot of chaos. Like all these people, for some reason, run into this trailer as the giant fish is, as the giant creature is chasing them. It just goes in there, and they're trapped in there because there's a chain wrapped around it. And just all you see through the crack of this trailer, people's hands all bloody, because they can't get out. Gong-do, an American guy, helps them get out. So there is a mass funeral for all of the victims. And that's when the family reunites, and they... It is really sad because, they're crying over, they're this young girl, but they're crying in such a crazy way. It just keeps escalating like so much, with also Nam-il calling Gongdu out, being like, how could you have taken another daughter's hand? Like, you're such an idiot. And then people just start taking photos because I guess it's such an epic scene. And then they're like, stop it, get away.
They like fall on the floor. And
Yeah,
just,
they're
like,
rolling
basically
around.
rolling around, just like crying so hysterically. And there's one shot where Nam-il like does this weird like kick at Gongdu, and
I love that. It's
that
like
was,
this jump kick.
I guess that was improvised, but it kind of reminded me of the kicks in Memories of Murder, But,
That was such a great scene.
As like they're crying over their lost loved one, somebody's like, "There's a Hyundai outside,
Yeah.
lights on."
And this woman gets up and they're just like, how could you have thought you could park there? They're wailing. At this mass funeral, a man in a hazmat suit comes in. I love his entrance too, because he walks in, trips, gets up and tries to look very official and is like, everybody. And, he tells them all that, they have to, wait there, and they ask if anybody came into direct contact with the creature. And, Gongdu just immediately is like, yeah, I didn't touch it, but it's blood sprayed on my face. He's like, grab that guy. And his family's like, no. He was lying. He didn't mean to say that. And suddenly the whole place gets quarantined.
So one thing immediately that's like a little different than other monster movies is that we've seen the creature like in the first like 10 minutes or something. So that's a little unusual. And usually that's like some weird reveal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's a little different is that, and director Bong said this himself, he's like, this is a kind of a loser family. Like everybody is not performing at their highest level. But usually in a monster movie, you have like Idris Elba or like, Tom Cruise or somebody like fighting the monster, which by the way is the Korean name of the film, The Monster. But anyway, here we have a bunch of losers, and they are tasked with not really killing the beast, but trying to find their daughter, who's
basically the best of them.
Yeah, she really is.
And it is really sweet. I was laughing really hard because that scene is fucking funny, but I feel like Bong Joon-ho is so good at this because it really was genuinely touching, because all of them were kind of mentioning their own things about her. Like, the sister Namju is like, she's so beautiful in that picture. And it's just so sweet. And that's why then when it escalates to something so like absurd, it like almost makes you laugh harder. This movie's so fucking funny.
Not as like, tears in her eyes, like when we see her enter the gym. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the same gym that was used in Parasite.
It looked similar, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
There was something in the trivia about that. Yeah, so then there's this weird twist where the government says that there's a virus that the creature is giving off or something like that. If you come in contact with the creature, then you've been exposed to this virus, which actually turns out to be a total lie. But everybody has to be quarantined. And this part is just pretty gruesome to me. Like the treatment of...
Yeah, they literally take him... They get a bag, like they hold him down and shove his family members off him, hold him down in a bag and zip it up over him like he's a dead body and just shuffle him away into like an ambulance. That's traumatizing. So they announced that there's like an unknown virus that the American hero that was fighting with Gongdu, which I thought it was funny that they mentioned him but not Gongdu at all, because they were both doing their best. But the American guy got his like arm eaten and he was in treatment, for the deadly virus. So while they're in this Gongdu's back with his family in this giant hospital area. And they tell the grandpa, like, don't let him eat like anything. We have to do a bunch of tests on him tomorrow. And in the middle of the night, of course, Gongdu gets this like, what is this food? Like, he finds this can of food, and it almost looks like the creature in a
Yeah, it looks
way.
like weird slimy fish bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look appetizing at all.
There's a part in the beginning where, he's telling his daughter, like, I called you earlier, and she said, like, you think I can get like a signal on this phone? Also, it's so old, I'm too embarrassed to let anybody see it. And he later reveals to her, because his family runs a ramen shop, he's got this ramen bowl full of dimes and quarters. And he also says, how did Petty get in there? That he's saving up money to get her a new phone. And so in the hospital, after she's presumed dead, he gets a phone call from her, and she tells him that she's trapped in this sewer area. It's this pit area where it's taken all of these bodies, because he munches on them kind of, but also swallows them whole, and I guess also grabs them by his tail and just leaves them there. And perhaps he's waiting to eat her later. She pretends like she's dead whenever it comes by. But yeah, she tells him, I'm trapped here in this big sewer, it's me, like, hello, Dad, are you there? But then her phone stops working. So Gongdo obviously tells his family, like, no, she's alive. And he's trying to explain this. There's this like giant sheet, because he's behind this quarantine area. And he's trying to explain to them, like, she's alive, and they're like, wow, it must be affecting his brain or something. Like, did you do a psychological evaluation on this guy? And he really isn't explaining it well, because he's so hysterical. But they won't even give him like a chance. At one point, he's just trying to explain it in the most basic terms. And he takes his phone and he's like, she was like this. And he puts it in his mouth. And then he grabs a bucket and spits the phone out. And he's like, now she's like this. And they're like, we don't know what's happening here. So the grandpa arranges with some people on the outside for them to escape. And, they have this little scene where they jump in through this van and drive away from a cop that's desperately trying to get them on foot. And they also purchase some supplies from these gangsters, in a map of the sewers in order to search for Hyunseo. And these guys are like total scumbags and just take everything the grandpa has. And even when they leave, the family's like, these guys kind of like ripped you off. Like, this shit is not good. Like, what did you pay for this? So, yeah, I think you're right. They're just kind of they're also really gullible. They just don't have any common sense. So while they're searching, we see these two homeless boys, Seijin and Seiju, who, are around the river area and trying to find some food. They go into the family's snack bar and, steal a bunch of things. The younger boy, Seiju, tries to take some money, and Seijin is like, no, you can't do that. If you do that, then it's theft. And the little boy doesn't understand, and he explains that there's like a tradition of, I think it's Seibo, and he says it's a game where basically, I don't remember exactly, but the people who have less can take food.
Yeah, I think it's called like sorry or something like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it either, but apparently there's a tradition. It's called, quote, looting culture. But it's a game. It's like you can take like a watermelon or like something like that, and like the adults might yell at you, but you're not going to be like tried for a crime or anything if you're a kid. But yeah, so he's making that distinction between taking money would be totally wrong, but taking this food that we're actually going to consume.
Yeah, because he says we're hungry.
Yeah.
So
it kind of makes sense to me. I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, I get it. So yes, but when they leave, they are attacked and swallowed by the creature. Nothing lasts. So the giant creature returns to its little sewer pit and regurgitates them. Hyunseo runs out to check on them. The older boy is dead, but Seiju is alive. And it is just so sweet how instantly she just kind of goes into like, because he's just a little bit younger than her, I think. And, she's holding him and making sure she's all right and, takes him to her little hidey hole. I don't know. I just found that really sweet.
Me too.
Yeah, the parks there. Oh, gosh, this was such a sweet scene where they go to the snack bar too, and I love this because there is noticeably stuff missing, but the grandpa doesn't seem to mind at all. You know, they all sit down and eat a meal, and it's really sweet because then they imagine that Hyunseo is there. Like she kind of like slow as they're eating, you know, their little bowls of ramen. She kind of emerges, and then they all start feeding her food.
I thought that was her dream.
Oh yeah, that probably was her dream. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And then it cuts to her in the sewer. It's so sad because that's such a sweet dream.
It is a sweet dream.
So the parks are, you know, searching these sewers. They're really exhausted and it's disgusting. They finally encounter the creature and shoot at it. Oh, well, I did want to mention there is a part where the parks are in their food shack and Gongdu falls asleep. And the other two siblings are kind of falling asleep, but the grandpa does take a second to be like, he kind of says that Gongdu is just kind of like, he didn't have enough protein when he was little. He is the eldest of the three by a lot. He's 36. There is a poster that shows their ages. I did pause and I was like, huh? He's 36. Namil is 25, I think. And Namju is 22. And he basically says, you know, I had to, you know, do a lot of stuff. I wasn't always there. And he didn't have a lot of food. He did that sorry a lot and took food, but he didn't get enough protein. And now he needs to sleep a lot.
And something about their mother too. Like, I don't know if the mother like left the family or no.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's Hung So's mother left.
Yes.
So, but I don't know what happened to Gong Du's mom.
Yeah.
She also wasn't there. So he was a single father raising this kid. And yeah, I love that. He didn't get enough protein, so now he has to sleep a lot.
Yeah. And he asked the two siblings to kind of cut him a break. And he says that there's this really effective part where he says that the cry of a parent who's lost a child is so loud you can hear it like for miles. Oh. And, you know, and he's like, so saying like, it's your fault because you grabbed the wrong child, you can't say that. And I thought that was a really sweet scene.
Me too.
Because even though I was like, yeah, he is dumb, but like he didn't mean to. All right, so yes, now the family, they encounter the creature and start shooting at it. And as they're running, the grandpa's like, you know, quick, I'm out of bullets. Give me another gun who has bullets. And Hongdu gives him his gun. And he says he has one left. So they're running, and the grandpa gets to a point where, you know, the creature's right behind him and he turns around to shoot him. And Hongdu counts on his fingers and realizes he's miscalculated because the trigger clicks, and then he turns around and waves for them that they have to keep running, and just gets, and this is brutal, just gets knocked over by the creature and hits the pavement and hits his head. And then the creature grabs him and just slams him on the ground. So brutal. And doesn't even eat him, just leaves. And Hongdu is, of course, really upset and, you know, is holding him. And then he goes, like, he holds him and then runs away with his siblings and then goes back and puts a newspaper over his head, but then just can't bring himself to leave. And the army captures him, and Nam-il and Nam-ju get separated from each other. So now Hongdu is just being held as another person who, you know, has been in direct contact. He's the biggest person of interest. So Nam-il meets with an old friend. How do you pronounce this? Fat Guevara?
Fat Guevara? I don't know.
But I didn't never heard his name. I didn't know that was his name.
I know the actor who played him. He said he goes, I'm playing the fat friend. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, he gets this friend to, you know, try to trace the call because, you know, they had mentioned to the police officer, can't you just trace her call? And they said, well, you know, you think we can do that for you? So yeah, he's going to get this friend to trace it. And as he's, you know, trying to get the coordinates, or at least a radius of area that she's in, the fat friend goes into another room and we see that there's all those people there. He's ratting his friend out to get a reward. And there's a great scene where he's like, so is there like a tax deduction on that reward? And they explain, no, it's non-exempt. I just love little details like that. Like he's about to sell out his friend who's looking for his niece. And he's like, yeah, so how much money am I getting for um so but he even warns them, hey, Namil is he's a he's an escape artist, and he does escape. He gets Hyung Seo's location, leaves, but kind of falls and eats it. So he texts Namju, Hyun Seo is here at this bridge, at the north side. Go help her. So now back to Hongdu. He is talking with this American scientist who is getting translated by a Korean scientist, and Hongdu is telling him. Well, first off, they sedate him, and then they try to get a tissue sample from him, and he's not sedated, but they just keep going, and he's just screaming. It's really hard to watch because it also looks super. Because I had that happen. I had to with my knee. Like, I mean, I know they couldn't do, but that shit hurted. Like, that shit hurts so bad.
Aren't they drilling into his brain?
That happens later.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, then this American scientist comes in, and he's telling them, because he gets the text from Namil, and he's telling him, my daughter, she's here. And then this guy is kind of like, why didn't you report this to anyone? And he's saying, I did, but nobody listened to me. And he's like, why didn't you talk to some human rights organization or the news or something? And it is so sad because it's like he didn't think of that, but he didn't know what to do. And then he just kind of goes on a rant and is like, nobody's listening to me. And he cuts off the translator, and he's like, stop cutting me off. Like, none of you are listening to me. None of you care. It's really sad. So then the American doctor talks in English to the Korean doctor and tells him, like, yeah, I think it's right here, like in his brain. That's where he needs, that's where the virus is. And thinking that Ongdu doesn't know English, he tells the Korean doctor that there was no virus in the American guy that supposedly died of the virus. They did a surgery to look for it, and he died of shock during the surgery. And there's been no signs of virus from anybody. And there's another great scene at some point where the news is talking about it, and everyone is wearing a mask. And this one guy, while all these people are running across the street, coughs, and everybody's starts inching away from him. That is how I feel when I cough in public. But it turns out Hongdu does know English, and he kind of turns and is like, virus isn't real. So then they lobotomize him.
They attempt to.
Yeah. There's a scene where he's like, I really have a medical, this shit really freaks me out, especially. And he's held down, his head is held down as they're slowly marking the point, that they're going to go. It's just all very methodical. Meanwhile, he's trying to get to his daughter. So Hyun Seo, while she thinks that the creature is sleeping, makes this, rope of shirts and tries to escape. She tells Seijo, to stay there, and she's going to go get some help. She's going to bring the military. She's going to bring everybody. She takes a running start to go onto, to jump up to grab the rope, and has to jump on the creature who's sleeping. And then there's just a scene where we just see her stop in midair, and we realize that he's holding her by his tail. We cut back to Hyun Seo and Seju in the sewer area. Hyun Seo decides to make a daring escape when the creature is sleeping. They've already made a little rope out of shirts that they've taken off of the dead bodies, and she takes a running start, having to jump on or run onto his back and jump to grab it. You see his eye turn, his giant eye, and then she kind of freezes in midair because his tail is wrapped around her and just sets her back down. So yeah, then we cut back to Gongdu, and I absolutely love this scene because, mind you, we know now that the virus isn't real, but this is top secret information. So while this nurse is taking blood from him, he then grabs the needle and holds it up to her throat, and he's like, I'll inject her. I'll do it right now. Everybody get away. And then he's like it's a gun, aiming it at people and squirting a little bit of blood here and there. And everybody's freaking out because they think he has this deadly virus. He busts open the door, and it's just this kind of looks like a military airbase or something. It's very unexpected, and he again just keeps like holding her hostage, um, and escapes the area. So Nam Il, we cut to him. He meets a homeless man because he kind of had to take a little nap underneath the bridge because he got really fucked up from trying to escape. So the guy helps him. I love this scene too because he at first Namil just goes and like steals a bunch of, he's like, oh yeah, bottles will be good, and yeah, I'll take this bag, and the guy wakes up and just like hits him over the head with a bottle. But then he's like, yeah, no, I'll help you, it's cool, yeah, come with me. So they prepare like Molotov cocktails while a guy tries to drive them right into, because basically where they're going is exactly where the government is planning to release a toxic chemical called Agent Yellow into the river to kill the creature. And but the thing is, there's this giant protest going on because people know that Gongdu is being held, and there's all these signs you can see of people saying like "Free him," you know. And so they've totally made it pass through security to this place where the chemical's going to drop. So like the cops are even just like, we've given up, you know, we know people are going to be there. So Gongdu reaches the area, and the creature appears, and he can see Hyunseo's arm dangling out of its mouth, and it's just this like horrible, like heart-dropping moment. He chases it all the way to where the Agent Yellow is being released, and it's this like giant. This is such a gross comparison to make, but it almost looks like a cartoon fart cloud. Like that's like the color. And it's just this giant thick gas just being like, you know, streamed everywhere. And yeah, he comes across Namju, the sister, who's, you know, appeared. So yeah, the protesters that are there, the creature attacks them, and the Agent Yellow is released. Everybody scatters, and it stuns the creature. So Gongdu pulls Hyunseo and Seju out of its mouth. She is dead, but she is clutching Seju. But nobody really notices Seju yet. Like it's just this moment of like now real grief, like almost worse, obviously, than before because they had this hope of saving her and they were too late, and because they didn't get any help from anybody. And so it was kind of like, sure, like beating the monster would have been really hard anyway, but they didn't, with the support of the military, you know, it's like they have its location. If only anybody would have listened to them. So Gongdu gets completely enraged and attacks the creature, aided by Namil, Namju, and the homeless man. They set it on fire with the Molotov cocktails, you know, Namju shooting at it with her arrows, and like just like the beginning of the movie, Gongdu gets a pole, and whereas before he kind of like swung and hit it on its tail, I think this time he just straight up stabs it, impales it like in its mouth, and kills it. So everybody's mourning Hyunseo, but Gongdu goes over and realizes that Seju is alive and revives him, and, you know, is asking him like, you were with, you know, Hyunseo, and he says yes. And so then it's kind of like a fade to black. Next we see sometime in the future, Gongdu has inherited his father's snack bar and adopted Seju. It's this really lovely moment because it kind of it's just Gongdu and Seju, but it kind of matches the same vibe of when Hyunseo was, you know, thinking about them in the sewer. And, you know, it's like snowing outside. It's really pretty. And, you know, they're just watching the river. Gongdu does hear a noise and picks up a double barrel shotgun to investigate, but it's nothing. Him and Seju enjoy, you know, their ramen meal together and ignore the broadcast on the TV that says that the entire aftermath of the incident was due to misinformation. And kind of scary how poignant that is today. You know, almost 20 years later. Yep, still a huge problem, maybe worse.
Yes, but I do like that moment where he just like, does he turn it off with his foot? Does he turn off the
Yeah, I
TV with
think
his
so.
foot?
Just
And
like, yeah.
and it's kind of like, yeah, the world is fucked up, and you know, and we went through a lot, but here we are together, and we can have this moment and
Yeah.
not be distracted by all this tragedy.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's a very sweet moment to me, and I did want to say a couple of things that I learned when watching the special features on the DVD. They had a really hard time with the cloud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at first they tried curry powder, but
Oh, that sounds spicy.
because they wanted yellow, right? But it didn't cause it didn't have the effect that they wanted, and they also were afraid that it would hurt people's
Yeah.
eyes and nasal passages and stuff. So actually, what they used was dirt, um,
Oh.
and it wasn't quite as yellow as
Mm.
Bong Joon-ho had wanted, but he's like, maybe I can fix it in post. But it did have that sort of like whoosh,
Yeah.
like a gas.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of cool to see these guys like doing all these experiments, like off a bridge with all these different substances, just trying to get the right effect.
See, that is the kind of creativity I want to see in a movie. I mean, I know that stuff is, a process, but I think that imagine if it had all been CGI, I
Yeah.
just think I don't I love that. What comes out of like trying to solve a problem?
Oh, Mac, I wanted to ask you, what phobia is that?
It's ichthyophobia. That's the fear of fish. And cloacophobia, the fear of sewers. I
I
think I have a healthy fear of sewers. I
I
don't want to be there.
think it's cloaca, and I
Cloacophobia?
think that's shit. I'm not sure if cloaca is shit, but isn't that the opening on a bird that's like the the sexual opening and also the asshole?
Yeah, where they just
Everything.
yeah, everything. Everything but the kitchen sink
Maybe
has
that's what a sewer is. It's everything.
Oh god. Ugh.
And look at this picture. So, Woho's, I'll put it on social media, but
What? They did the Demogorgon before Stranger Things, I'm noticing.
what's that?
Or have you watched Stranger Things at all?
Stranger Things. Yeah, I watched. I thought you were talking about Strange Beasts, or that
Oh,
series. No.
ugh.
Uh, yeah, I think I saw the first two seasons.
There's like and I only really know this from there's a video game I play where you can play as the Demogorgon. I keep almost saying Freddie Mercury. I mean Freddy Krueger. And characters like that. But its mouth looks just like that. So
Yeah, it kind of looks like a flower, or maybe a sexual organ. It's kind of got kind of like petals or lips.
yeah,
Um,
especially inside.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway, in January 2015, a 10-meter high, 10-ton sculpture of the monster featured in the movie was unveiled at Yoido-han River Park.
That's
That,
awesome.
yeah, or
That's the
where
same river, right?
yeah, exactly.
So, Mom actually mentioned this when I was talking about this scene, but the event in the beginning of the film is based on a real thing. In February 2000, at a U.S. military facility located in the center of Seoul, a U.S. military civilian employee named Mr. McFarland was ordered to dispose of formaldehyde by dumping it into the sewer system that led to the Han River, despite the objection of a South Korean subordinate. I love all those details. That's so interesting. The government had attempted to prosecute Mr. McFarlane in court, but the U.S. military refused to hand over the custody of Mr. McFarlane to South Korean legal system. Surprise, surprise. Um, Later, a South Korean judge convicted Mr. McFarlane in absentia. The public was enraged at the government's inability to enforce its law on its own soil. Yeah, that's really fucked up. Like, you did
Yeah.
a horrible thing. That's who there's like untold amount of damage that you did. Like, you just get to go home. That's so fucked up.
It's good to be American and military.
Yeah. In 2005, nearly 5 years after the original incident, Mr. McFarlane was finally found guilty in a court in his presence. However, he never served the prison sentence, and there have been no sightings of a mutant creature in the Han River. Yet. Koh Sung and Song Kang-ho also starred as father and daughter in Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought she looked familiar. Bae Doona has acrophobia, a fear of heights.
But there's a really lovely segment where she had to learn how to, shoot the bow and arrow, and she got really good at it. She got really into it. And Bong said that they didn't need any CGI because she had a 9-point hit. I don't know what that is, but that sounds pretty good. But yeah, she herself was just like, this is so much fun, and this suits me like a solo sport, And but she goes, you would not believe how heavy the bow is, and she was a little person.
Yeah, she's tiny,
but real strong. And then they also had to teach. I can't remember the actor's name who plays the father, but they had to teach him and Song Kang-ho how to shoot rifles because they didn't know. And that was kind of cool. They were just like shooting like clay pigeons kind of thing. But yeah, they didn't have any idea because there aren't that many guns in South Korea.
What if that were true in the US?
I just got done talking about incarceration in my class, and I always show that clip of the Norway incarceration system and the whole thing that happened on 22 July, the solo mass shooter that they had. And there's a kid in the back who I can't wait to see his presentation because he's really like on fire. But I said, how many mass shootings have there been? And he goes, more than 50, Ms. Hare. He's just like on it.
Oh, honestly, I love like people like that are like, I came in to like heated, like passionate.
Yeah, indeed.
This is a little bit off topic, but I wanted to mention it since this is like kind of the only public platform I have. But I don't know if you've heard, but there's like a Harry Potter game or it's already out. And it's the plot, disregarding the fact that J.K. Rowling's like, we'll get back to the fact that she's a huge transphobe, but the plot itself is super anti-Semitic. Like, literally the plot is that you have to stop this like goblin rebellion and they're stealing like children. Like, it was, and apparently one of the developers is also like a right-wing nut job. And anyways, J.K. Rowling makes money off of it, and she directly uses that money to influence like UK legislation. And I've had like 2 separate conversations with groups of young people, who are like my age, who I would have considered like, oh yeah, they're chill, nice people. And they were like, but I like Harry Potter, so I'm going to play it. And it makes me so mad. It makes me just so mad because I'm like, not playing a game is maybe one of the easiest things you could do. So like, if that's too hard for you, like that's where you draw the line of like, well, I support people, but I need to play Harry Potter game. Like, when are you going to step up when it's something that's actually difficult? And it's just really frustrating. So I just want to say, if you did not know that J.K. Rowling was a huge transphobe, she is. And I can't stop anybody from purchasing a game, but if you do, to me, that's just like you drawing your line in the sand saying, I don't really give a shit about Jewish or trans people or like people of color. Cause also like a lot of her characters have really fucked up names. Like one of the only black characters' names is Kingsley Shacklebolt. And then there was Cho Chang, it's just like, why are you dying on this hill? So I just had to say that. I feel really passionate about it. And, just wanted to put that out there.
Mac, did you mention the name of the game?
It's called like Hogwarts Legacy. It's I can't escape it. I'm seeing ads for it everywhere, and it's just like I was a huge Harry Potter fan as a kid. So like, how do you think like I would feel? It's like something that I love, and then I'm like, oh, it was written by like the worst person ever. That really sucks, But like, if it's not a group that you're a part of, you can just be like, well, but I still like it. I don't know.
It's super disappointing. And I used to really love whole mythology around J.K. Rowling, how she,
Mm-hmm.
made up all these stories and she told them to her son, at bedtime, and she was poor and all this stuff. But now knowing, I mean, there were criticisms about Dobby, the house elf, and about
There's just slavery in
yeah,
like
and
Harry Potter.
and also the caretakers of Gringotts also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
They're good
there
with
were
money.
there were suggestions along the way, but her transphobia is so vicious, and she does have a huge influence. And my thing is Succession is coming back soon, and Brian Cox turns out is a Rowling apologist. What he said was, well, that's her opinion. I thought people were supposed to be able to have their opinions. And the thing is, yes, you can have your opinion, but there's a difference between having an opinion and spewing hatred that puts people at risk of losing
Yes.
their lives.
I
And
was
so,
saying this too of just like we all like things that are made by problematic people. Like that's just because people are not infallible and it so but yeah, that is like the clear difference of like is your person just a person with ideas, it's sitting around in their head but they're not actually like doing anything. Like it would still be like a shitty thing, but it is just worlds apart from somebody who is literally saying, I am taking your money to do this. Like she has said such things. Like somebody asked her, how do you sleep at night? And she literally said, when I look at my paycheck.
yeah,
Like
there you
this
go.
woman is indefensible.
And last night when I couldn't sleep, of course, I was doom scrolling, and there's a bill that passed the North Carolina Senate that would disallow teachers. If a student comes out to a teacher, they have to immediately inform the parent,
Oh
even
my
if
God.
even if the child might have an abusive home. It hasn't passed the House yet, and the governor will probably veto it anyway. But
Yeah.
it's just disturbing that there's just been this like flood of anti-LGBTQ people bills, just like a deluge. It's time to suit up, everybody, and get real, and let's look out for each other, because even if you're not trans or you don't know anybody who's trans, we have an obligation to take care of each other.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. State of the World Minute. State of the World Minute over.
Let's get back to the. Do you want to just jump to Letterboxd?
Sure.
Oh, the first one's in Spanish, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll try it. What does Letterboxd have to say about it? Well, Luis Henrique gave it a half star and said que merda?
Merda. Yeah.
I can't roll my R's. You say it again.
Que merda.
Oh.
What shit?
Well, I'm sorry, Louise. Julie _Windward gave it a half star and said, I didn't like it. Very silly, and it looked like a fish. I would not recommend it. Very silly.
It
is
a
silly movie.
I mean, and that was intentional.
Yeah.
Wanted a creature that looked Asian. And so that's
there
why
you
it
go.
looks like that.
Cordelia Grimm, which by the way is an awesome name.
Really great one.
Yeah. Gave it 1 star and said, I would rather go through middle school again than have to sit and watch this movie.
I think that's such a...
That's intense.
Yeah, but get your then distinctions straight. Sorry, Cordelia.
Jenny gave it 1 star and said, a bit funny at times, although I don't know if it was supposed to be funny. It was. No, it was completely serious. When Song Kang-ho was like falling on his ass and being a bumbling fool, he was playing that, completely seriously, you dumbass. Aussie 2002. Again, I get that that Jonathan Colton line now. Like, I can't believe there are people born in the 90s. I can't believe there are people born past 2000. um, but Aussie 2002 gave it 5 stars and said, get yourself a monster flick that has 2 great monsters, Evil Fishy and The Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are the real monsters, you know. Solly Bowden gave it 5 stars and said Bong is a miraculous filmmaker. He manages to craft films which anyone on the face of the earth could enjoy. He binds the camera snob and the film bro hand in harmony. Joshua Abraham gave it 5 stars and said, if I hear someone talking about the best actors of all time and Song Kang-ho doesn't come up, I'm shooting them in the face. That was a recent watch, too. That was 2nd of January, 2023.
Yeah.
And finally, Big Noodly gave it 5 stars and said, this is a better film than Parasite, but you are all not ready for that conversation. I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far. Let's have the convo because I want to hear why you'd say such a thing. Like, I don't mean that rudely, but like, I think Parasite is undoubtedly like, and it would make sense if you made a film 20 years later, you'd probably be better at it.
There's a surprise coming up when we get to the Letterboxd reviews for Parasite, but just spoiler, a friend of the show has a similar take.
Oh, we're going to have to fight?
Maybe.
Well, let's rate this in bottles of formaldehyde.
Oh, boy. At least 4.
I think I'd give it 4.
I might give it my patented 4.25.
So like a quarter of the bottle.
There are problems with it. It's a kind of a kitchen sinky kind of movie. You know, You've got social criticism, you've got comedy. I mean, you've got a lot of like genre mixing, which is fine because Bong Joon-ho knows how to do that. But sometimes the pacing is a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're similar in length, Parasite and The Host, but I feel like Parasite, you do not feel the 2 hours, but I do feel like with The Host, you will by the end be like, okay, is this going to wrap up?
And you might not, you have to pay really close attention, which isn't necessarily a criticism, but sometimes we keep having, I'm still interested in this conversation about, is it a fault of the movie if you have to see it more than once to get it? Now, also as an American, I don't know that much about, what it's like to live in South Korea. And I mean, I do know some because I've done research and stuff, and also I really like this actor and this director. And I know that they're both around my age, and South Korea went from a dictatorship to a democracy in their lifetimes, about the time when all of us were in college. So I know that that's like super important. You can see it in all of Bong Joon-ho's movies. There's usually a protest of some kind that goes on. Memories of Murder. I think Okja has one. So it's just something that he comes back to over and over, just like homeless people, just like institutionalized people, wrongfully institutionalized. He's got a thing about girls being preyed upon. There are themes. Yeah,
I feel like classism's in like every of them.
Absolutely. And here, criticism of the military, definitely. But to be fair, this was based on a true event. So I think it's perfectly reasonable.
Like, as an American, I do not feel like it was a wrongful portrayal. Totally believe that would happen. And totally not surprised that, the guy got away with it too. Mm-hmm. Like, as an American who's lived here forever, I can say, yep, that tracks. What have we learned? Hey, people in power. Listen, please. I know this won't be heard, but ironically, but I think there's a lot of things that could be solved by, I mean, I'm not the first, won't be the last person to say this, but like to have the people making the laws of your society and they have no fucking clue what anybody's life is like who, doesn't make a shit ton of money or doesn't, live in a certain level. It's like, we should have poor people be like, well, there should not be poor people, but it's like, how can anything ever happen for us if it's just a whole bunch of like old privileged people making the rules?
Yeah, that's not a good system. It's not going to end well. It's not ending well, I should
Yeah.
say.
Reagan.
It's so funny that The Last of Us is super popular right now, and I'm waiting till it's all out to watch it.
Mhm.
But I was listening to a podcast today talking about how we just seem so attracted to the idea of living in a post-apocalyptic world, and I'm like, y'all,
Yeah.
give it 5 minutes because we're real close. So if you want to be brave and you want to think that you're the one that would make it, survivor style, put that to the test a little bit. Write a letter to a senator or some shit. Like, do something, or have a conversation with somebody that you wouldn't normally.
Yeah.
Make eye contact with a homeless person. Just do
I
something.
I really feel like, and there's, you can start small, and even starting small will make a big difference. Like, I do really like TikTok, and I use it to try to like look at the viewpoints of other people, because people just really candidly share. So, it's like I follow a lot of Black women, and it's like listening to things that like I would never experience firsthand, and therefore do not organically come into my head of like, this is a thing people deal with, and it's like, even just seeing somebody else as a person, hearing them share like what they're going through, like, will do so much more than just thinking like, well, I will just not be racist. It's like, no, there's like way more work you need to do. Like, you need to really work to see people as like people and listen to them and think about it and then do something.
Yeah. And it's hard for me too, because I write off people all the time, especially if they're in power and they have a lot of money. Right there, I'm like, how can you have a clear mind? How can you, maybe you don't remember, or maybe you never knew what it was like to not have all that power and money. I have a kid in my class. It's so great. I just have these challenges that pop up, and they just teach me to be more creative, I guess. But I don't think I told you about the blurters last time. But I have this kid in the back of my class, and he's basically like, we were talking about wrongful imprisonment, and he's like, well, they were found guilty by a jury. And I'm like, whoa. Okay, white boy. Like,
so somebody's never thought anybody could lie before or be wrong before. Interesting.
Or be influenced, unduly influenced, or just, whatever. But I'm like, you saw the slide when I showed you all of the people in this country who were executed and later found to be innocent, right? Like, you were awake when I showed you that, those stats. Like, just,
it's like they don't see it. It is willful ignorance.
It's just they don't see it. They don't want to see it. So it's like, la, 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 la. And it's like, well, it never happened to me, or, it never
won't happen to me. Won't ever happen.
Look up Neil Brennan's bit on going for ride-alongs. That is a very funny bit, because he's like, that's the only white people request to go on ride-alongs, because
I want to see it.
When are we ever going to get the chance to be in the back of a cop car?
God.
So anyway, this was made in quite a while ago, but a lot of the themes persist, environmental themes and so on, and so don't write off movies before the year 2010.
Yeah, and like, sure, you can tell. Like, you can see that this movie was made, in the early 2000s with the CGI of like the creature, but I really think it's not like compare. I'm such a hater. I really hate like the CGI mess that is like Marvel movies now. Like, I really, this is at every Marvel fan. It looks like Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I saw a comparison like that online, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what they look like now, because the suits are CGI, the background CGI, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think it looks any worse than that. And so yeah, watch it.
It's not really a monster movie. I mean, it is, but like the reviewer said, monster could be taken in different ways. And it's really about this family kind of getting
Yeah.
their shit together
Hmm.
when it counts. And even though the result, I mean, obviously it's still tragic, there is redemption finally at the end for Gongdu.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, despite the fact that he didn't get enough protein when he was younger.
And got lobotomized. Man, he's been
He
through
didn't
it.
really get lobotomized.
But they drilled into his head, right?
Yeah, but that was kind of a turning point for him too. I think that
Stirred it up exactly how he needed it to be.
a little tune-up
Can I sign up for
is not the way
that?
that works.
Do you have a favorite scene and or death?
Come back to me on that one. What about you?
I mean, I think that opening scene of the chase is pretty great with all the chaos, and I love that scene where he's holding the bloody syringe like a gun. Uh, a lot of the action scenes are just really good. He's really good at having like coordinated scenes, because I think the escape scene with Namil is also really fun to watch. Most of the movie's my favorite.
I do like the scene in the gym. I think that's
Yeah,
all
yes.
really
Oh my
funny.
God. So
And
good.
I've used that clip in class, and I just think it's amazing that you could take, this tragedy where like, tens of people have died and
Yeah.
make it funny. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
make it
that's a trick.
genuinely funny.
I mean, I just kind of always like it when Song Gang-ho is like on the screen,
Yeah.
and he's so dumb in this, but he's still so sweet. And he's totally a different character in the next movie we're going to talk about. You ready?
Yes.
All right, here's the brief plot summary from IMDb. Grade and class discrimination threatened the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. I don't know if you'd call it symbiotic. I don't know, maybe. Isn't symbiotic the
Yeah, it's where
antithesis
both are.
of parasitic?
Yeah, it's like they're both equal.
I guess they
The
didn't want
movie's
to.
literally called Parasite.
I guess they didn't want to use the word parasitic, but anyway, words matter.
Yeah, you can't. Okay, I didn't really think about that, but that is the movie's called Parasite. Symbiotic is not that.
Well, IMDb, you done fucked up. This was directed by Bong Joon-ho. The screenplay was also by Bong Joon-ho and Han Jin-won, and the story was by Bong Joon-ho. It stars Song Kang-ho, Lee Sun-kyun, Cho Yo-jung, Choi Woo-shik, Park So-dam, Jang Hye-jin, and cinematography was by Hong Kyung-pyo. We've seen Choi Woo-shik in Train to Busan. He is the baseball kid.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Everybody loves Park So-dam because she's just so lovely.
Mhm.
But yes, these are very well established and
Who's
fine
Park Saddam in
actors.
the movie?
The sister.
Ah, okay.
This was released on the 21st of May 2019 at Cannes and the 30th of May 2019 in South Korea, and it has a running time of 132 minutes. I watched it on DVD, Blu-ray. All right, so we meet the Kim family. This is the family led by Song Kang-ho, and Bong Joon-ho is one of these people who storyboards like every single shot of the film.
Wow.
I have the book of that. That was a gift
What?
from one of my friends. But the first shot of the movie is from the basement apartment of the Kims, and there's a a bunch of like wet socks hanging on a hanger in the window. There's a bit about the stink bugs, and they are in the house. They don't have Wi-Fi because they've been stealing their neighbor's Wi-Fi, and she finally put a password on it. And they're folding pizza boxes for money when the fumigation truck comes by, and this is a real thing. At least apparently 2019, it's still going on. And there's a comment, I didn't know that this was still going on. But I remember living in South Korea in 1996, and the fumigation trucks would come through. And I was just like, yeah, it was just amazing. You don't want to be behind one of those trucks.
And they leave the windows open because they're like, no, it'll kill the bugs.
That's free extermination.
They're all just coughing and like hacking a lung up.
It's dingy. Their clothes are, kind of dingy. And but I do like this family. They're all working together to fold the pizza boxes and stuff, but they don't do a great job. And so they don't get all the money that they were expecting to get. But the son charms the pizza girls, and this will become a theme throughout the movie. The charm of this family is unmatched. So a friend, Min, comes by with the Scholar's Rock, and the son thinks it is so metaphorical. And he suggests that Kyu, the son, take over tutoring for Dae.
What does the rock mean? It's like gives material wealth to the person who has it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And there's something in the trivia about this. I think it was Bong Joon-ho's grandfather collected them or something like that. And there's a really great shot. Well, if you go to YouTube, there is that series. I don't know who does it, but anyway, it's where directors break down a scene of their own movie. Kyu, Bong Joon-ho are breaking down the scene where Min is talking to Kyu, and they're drinking at the soju stand, and a bus drives, down the slope behind Kyu, just as he's deciding that it would be a good idea to commit fraud against this family and present himself as something that he's not. But the pitch is so great. He's like, look, you've taken the college entrance exam 4 times. You know the exam, and you did your military service, like you're a good guy and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but I don't have a degree. Like, it's not okay for me to say that I do. And he's like, same difference, And also he says that he likes the girl he's tutoring. Min likes the girl he's tutoring.
And she's 16. This is a thing that is weird.
This is really deeply disturbing. But he's like, but if she's with you, I know she'll be safe. Which is not, kind of an insult, I think, to Kyu.
Yeah. And
anyway.
What was I going to say? He mentions that the mom is a little bit, I don't know how exactly. Yeah, he's simple.
He uses the English word simple, but I guess it's also been adopted into Korean vernacular. So he thinks that she's simple. When we meet her,
well, because his sister makes the
she's so great. She's like she's in an internet cafe, and she's just like using Photoshop to like just. On the Korean version, he is supposedly a graduate of Yonsei University, but in the English version, he's a graduate of Oxford University. And she's smoking in the cafe, and you're not supposed to be doing that, but
she just like taps her ashes out. Whatever.
She does what she wants. She's so cool.
And I love the dad is like, the way when they show him, I love this family so much. Mr. Kim is like so proud of her. Like, he's so proud of her, and he's like, if only there was a school for making forgeries. I just love that all this family's on the same page. Like, they're like, nice gig.
Absolutely. So he goes to, there's a lot of there's the symbolism sometimes is I don't want to say it's like heavy handed, but it's hard to miss, right? So they're
Mhm.
living in a basement. The Parks are living on top of a hill, so it's not that difficult to get the symbolism there. But it is kind of nice when we see him just kind of like craning his neck, like going up this hill, and then when he goes into the gate, he assumes that the housekeeper is Mrs. Kim, and she's like, "Oh, I just work here. No, 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 no. Come on in." And he does almost a 360 where he sees that the whole backyard is like built up with all this greenery and stuff, some of which was CG, but
Oh,
anyway.
really? I couldn't even
Mhm.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge green lawn, um, giant like windows. Oh man, I watching it over again, I felt like I got a lot more symbolism. I feel like could you even connect like the park's like huge glass window to like the tiny little windows that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a shot that I really like right at the beginning of Song Kang-ho, like looking up, outside of the basement window, and the sun is shining on his face and his eyes are closed. So just
Mhm.
to get that little bit of sunshine, from this really tiny window, I just think is such a beautiful thing. And how the parks really take what they have for granted.
Yeah.
When we meet Mrs. Kim, she's passed out drunk in her backyard middle in the middle of the day. Um,
Yeah. I love
and
her.
there's, there's a whole thing in this movie about crossing the line, and so you could do a whole study. This
Mhm.
house was built to have a bunch of lines, and so this point can be made over and over. But as Kiyu is looking outside the window, the housekeeper literally crosses the line of the window that he's looking through so that she can clap her hands and wake up the wife. I just really love all that stuff. Well, when he meets Dai, he really, does an act, and he's being observed by the wife, Mrs.
Mhm.
Park. But it's just all this bullshit stuff. He's just trying to give her these strategies and stuff like that. But he says, you've got to tackle these problems and don't be shy. And then he grabs her hand, and it's like, what is he doing? And he's grabbing her to show her that her pulse is racing, but it's not racing because she's nervous about the test. It's racing because she's like
A
boy
strange
crazy.
guy's like grabbed my
Yeah.
wrist. But Mrs. Park is like enthralled.
There is one detail that I really like about this is he's obviously hired. She hardly looks at the documents. I mean, if
Mhm.
he's been recommended by Min, then she's happy with that. But when she's getting the money from the envelope that she would have given to Min, she checks it, and then she takes out a couple of bills and then gives it to Kiyu, which I don't know. I just like that
And
really
I think
that
she
detail.
does say that she's giving him extra money
Extra,
too.
that's right. Yes.
Straight up lies.
Yep. Um, So they also have a son, Da Song, and he's
I love this.
he's a wild child. He's obsessed with like Native American stuff, and he's just joined the Cub Scouts, I guess. And he's just kind of a kid. I don't know that he's all that weird.
Yeah, he's
Um,
just not being quiet.
but like the wife is like, I mean, look at him. He's just like so crazy, just like running around.
And they have like a whole family portrait and one of his drawings. And he's like they're both looking at it with such seriousness
Yeah.
and the son is like, "Wow, is it like a chimpanzee or something like that?" She just goes, "It's a self-portrait."
And then he
He's like,
like
"Oh."
he takes a minute. Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. He's like, he's so wise or something like that. But I think this is great because the wife wants to believe that her son is a genius
Mm.
and that her daughter, has like intellectual difficulties. And I just think this is a great comment on probably any society.
Yeah.
But especially in South Korea, there's definitely a preference for male children. And we see this a number of times. Mr. Park comes home loaded up with gifts for the little boy, and his birthday is like super important. They stop everything, for his birthday a couple of times.
Yeah. Poor girl.
I know. So Kyu is like, oh, I think I do know somebody who can help with your son. Oh gosh, but her family moved to Chicago, and I'm not sure if she's available. But let me see if I can,
He's
look.
so good.
He's really good. And so Jessica, who's actually Kyu's sister, is hired by the family, and that interview process is
Art.
because she just like finagles her way in. I love the way she says that the lower quadrant of the kid's drawing is what we call the schizophrenia zone.
And she's like, look, it's there in all of them. And the mother's like, oh my goodness.
And she's like, did something happen to him in first grade? It's like a psychic. Did something happen to him in first grade? I mean, in a whole year, something would have happened to this child. But the wife is like, it's like...
And she and quote unquote Jessica is so like even more masterful than Kiwoo because the mom has to be a part of like the lesson, but she immediately is like, no adults. I never teach. But when she comes back in, he's being very polite. And
yes.
So she's just like, amazing.
And when Jessica is like sitting at the table and she's like, Da-song, go back up to your room. Like she tells the boy to go, and he does this deep bow to her. So she's like an alpha dog. Like she just like takes control of the situation. Jessica scams her way into 4 2-hour sessions per week.
Amazing.
And the driver is told to drive her home. She insists on getting off at the station. He's very persistent. Like, I'll drive you like to your door, kind of thing. And she's like, I'm meeting my boyfriend at the station. And then she gets the idea to slip off her panties. And we're not sure what that's all about, but she has a plan in mind there. And so when Mr. Park finds the panties, he puts them in this like envelope and she pulls them out like with tongs or something, and like just
they're it's such a scandal. They're so scandalized by this. And
it's all about how the driver is poor, and he crossed the line because they think that he had sex with his girlfriend in the front of Mr. Park's car. And Mr. Park's like, why wouldn't he do it in the backseat? Why did he have to cross the line? They're like, this guy's a scumbag, but Mr. Park's like, can you just fire him? Like, just come up with some like bullshit reason and she's like, absolutely.
I feel so bad. This is something I noticed more of, like, this wife, she is tasked with like the hardest of like having to let people go. And I was just thinking that would be my fucking nightmare. Like I could never fire anybody and I don't know what I would do. I usually just say like, no, like, somebody from like the Firefighters Association called me yesterday and was like, can we count on your support? And I don't know why I didn't just like hang up when he called. But I was like, do you have a website I can go to? I'll go to it after. And he's like, well, I can walk you through right now because we need to get a receipt for this to count. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but I actually can't help. Hung up. Like, I can't,
Right. That's very hard. I mean, any kind of conflict can be hard. But I think I just actually started rewatching Lodge 49, which I don't think that you ever got into. But our hero, Wyatt Russell, gets a job stuffing envelopes as a temp worker, and it turns out that the envelopes are for firing people. And
No.
so, and he was hired. I mean, he's a complete loser, but he's been hired because nobody else wants to do this job, because they're basically, over the course of 5 years, they've been letting people go from this one company in town. And it's just, you see people, coming into the agency basically to get their separation package, and just like leaving like in tears or enraged. you know?
Getting
But,
fired over like letter would
mm.
be so that would be so like what? you know? I can't even imagine.
So Jessica suggests that she might know somebody that, like, her uncle had known this guy, because she's like, isn't an older driver better than a younger driver? And of course Mrs. Park is like, oh yes, I guess that's true. He has more experience, and he wouldn't be getting involved in these shenanigans, kind of thing. And she uses some English here, and she says that she's deadly serious, that she's interested in meeting Uncle Kim.
There's a lot of like moments where I was wondering what the significance was, where both Mr. and Mrs. Park will just like have one like English word that they'll say.
Yeah, I think there's sort of this fetishization of American culture as a symbol of wealth and
Yeah, because the
success.
son, yeah, being really into like she specifically mentions like we had to get this from America.
But I think that's also really artfully done, because the son's obsessed with Native American culture. And of course, white people couldn't be successful unless they like wiped out basically a whole race of people. So, white people are only successful when they, commit genocide, or,
Hmm.
literally enslave people and exploit them and exploit their labor. So, yes, they're obsessed with this idea of success and wealth, but it's a false idea. And
Yeah.
the fetishization also of Native American or Indian culture, the kid has a teepee in his backyard, and,
Yeah, really like I,
it's just
like
like,
turning it into a toy or a costume rather than like he's not actually interested in Native American
no.
culture. He's interested in these toys that
Right.
are really offensive, you know?
Right. Oh, I like this. So Kyu gets his father, ready to go for this
Oh,
job.
yes, the scene's so good.
So they do a couple of things. One, they go to a Benz dealer, and he sits in the car, and he's like learning where all the buttons are and all the features. And the sales guy is like, "You guys are spending a lot of time, like in that car."
So they just get out and go to the next car.
But Mr. Park also, he works for a company called Another Brick, which I think is kind of funny, because there's a Pink Floyd song called Another Brick in the
Mm.
Wall. So I think that might be a reference there. But they also have an acting lesson in the middle of this, where Kiyu is trying to get his father, Ki Tak, to like learn this, learn this dialogue, as he's talking to Mrs. Park and trying to get the housekeeper fired. That would be like the last
Yeah,
piece of
peace.
the
Yeah, so
puzzle.
the mom can.
Well, it's just, I just wrote in my notes the peach operation.
It's such a masterful scene.
This is just amazing. So, Dae tells Kyu that she loves peaches. They're her very favorite fruit, but they can't have them because the housekeeper has this severe allergy to peaches. And then we see the sister like steal a peach from from a stand, and then Kiyu, like with a razor blade, is just scraping off the fuzz, and
I'm
he
putting
puts
into
it
like the
into a little
tiny.
vial, and he just, as he's leaving, he bows to her, and then he just like flicks the little fuzz onto the back of her neck, and then when he's about a block away, he hears her coughing. So they know that that's going to be effective. So the housekeeper like blows up, like she gets like all like hives and swelling on her face, and she goes to the hospital where Key Tech sees her, does a selfie, catching her with his phone, um, and then he shows the, oh my goodness,
Is this her?
is this your housekeeper? He shows to Mrs. Park, and she's like, oh yeah, she is, and he goes, well, I don't want to get her into trouble, but I overheard her conversation, and she was saying that she had TB. And Mrs. Park is like, oh, no, 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 that could never be. And he's like, yes, I'm very sure that that's what she said. And I mean, you have a young child in the house, and it just isn't safe, and so
When we see them like practicing the monologue, like as he's like, first he's like, really like, it's not safe. And the son's like, yeah, you're up here. You want to take it down here. It's like, so fun to watch. And then it cuts, between him actually telling Mrs. Park about it. Masterful.
it is so great. I mean, it just really makes you love this family so much that they're just, I mean, even though they're doing, a terrible thing, um, you can see why they're doing it, and you're on their side and all
I'm
this stuff.
them. The pièce de résistance is that she throws like she has
That's
like a
right.
tissue that she throws away, and Mr. Kim comes over and squirts a little bit of hot sauce that we had seen earlier been squirted on like a pizza, but it looks just like blood. And when Mrs. Park turns, he just pulls it out and looks so like, oh man. And she's
She covers her mouth, and she looks, defeated, and it's a really, that whole sequence is mwah, piece of art, just belongs in the MoMA, as you used to
yes.
say. Mr. Park is talking to Key Tech, and he's like, oh man, this like really sucks. Like, you got to take me out to dinner. We need to go get some ribs because my wife is this terrible cook. She let the housekeeper quit like suddenly. I don't even know why. And so my wife's a terrible housekeeper. She's a freaking that's like she's a homemaker, but
Yeah.
she has no skills in this area whatsoever, which I think is also pretty funny that they have everybody taking care of all of these things that
Yes.
you know uh, um, somebody without the means just has to do for
Mhm.
themselves. But anyway, so he texts like, "Oh, my wife told me about this service called The Care. It's in English
Mhm.
on a business card." And he's like, "Yeah, they tried to recruit me, but I had already taken the job with you, and so I politely declined their offer." And he's like, "Oh, that's really amazing that you turned down this prestigious company to work for me." And he's
It's
like,
a very like when he gives the business card over, it reminds me of American Psycho because
yes.
Mr. Park is like, whoa, this is a nice business card. You can tell it's very fancy. It's like they're so good at duping them.
Yeah, they really are. But we also had the conversation about crossing the line.
Mhm.
And the only problem that Mr. Park ever had with the old housekeeper is that, she ate for two. Like, she always seemed to like eat a lot. So that'll be important later. But now mom is in the house as well. And there's this whole, little montage about that. That's very funny. But Da Song says that Ki-tek and the wife smell the same. And so does Jessica.
Mhm.
She also smells the same. And so they realize that it's the basement smell that they're
Mhm.
all carrying around in their clothes. And so they're going to have to, I don't know if they're actually going to do this, but there's conversation about getting different laundry soap and like doing different loads of laundry for each of them so that they're not found out. It's Da Song's birthday, and the Park family decides that they want to go camping for his birthday.
When does she give when does she talk about what what was so like what the trauma was.
What trauma?
Like when she I don't remember if she explains it to the mom or the sister, but somebody asks like what happened to him? Like what was the event that happened to him in first grade? And she explains that he quote unquote saw a ghost.
I think that is when they come back home from the part with the
Oh, okay.
when she's eating the ramdon.
Yeah, okay, okay.
So the Park family goes camping for Dasong's birthday, and the Kim family makes themselves at home. And I just love that part too.
Me too.
They're sitting on the lawn. Mom was a competitive, I don't know what that is, but
Shock put?
yeah, it's not shot put. Shot put's like this,
Oh yeah.
but she throws a hammer or something.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but there was a picture in the house of her medal. That so she was
Oh.
like a
Oh yeah.
competitive,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, whatever she was. She had gotten pretty good, and so she's doing that, and the rest of them are cheering her on, and okay, this is the scene I think that doesn't make it a 5-star movie for me when they're getting drunk
Really?
because only Song Kang-ho to me seems like a convincing drunk. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to write a paper at some point.
About
Good and bad drunk
convincing
performances. I can speak from experience, but he does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of them are acting drunk. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a little distracting, but there's some funny things that come out.
I love
The
this whole scene. I feel like and again watching it over again, I saw so much more too. Like we said, the family is so sweet. Like he was like telling his sister, you belong in a place like this. Like you just look perfect. And he's mentioned that, when she was in like the bath, like this luxurious bathroom, he was like, you looked right at home. And then at the same time, right before Mrs. Park left, she was explaining what the dogs eat, and one of them was this jerky treat, and she's just been chewing on one of the jerky treats the whole time he's saying this. And it's like you don't like they don't mention it until like really a few minutes later, but if you catch it, it's just so funny.
but the wife is saying thing pretty unflattering things about her husband, and he seems to get really angry, and he grabs the front of her shirt and like that's enough out of you or something like that, and then she just breaks and starts laughing, and he starts laughing, and then he's like, I really had you going, kids, didn't I, so they they are a very lovable family.
And I love this conversation they have because I think it's the Mr. Kim who expresses, saying like, they're it's kind of sad, like they're such nice people, and the mom mentions like, yeah, it's because they're rich. Like
Mm-hmm.
they we are the way that we are because, we're actually, living this life that's full of hardships, but they have no reason, like and I think that's just such a great commentary. I've been seeing a lot. This is kind of something I've had to personally like come to like look at, which is this idea of like it's not even just an idea, it's real, of like politeness really being a way to exert like white supremacy, and this idea that like we all have to act a certain way, and if you don't, like the movie, you're crossing the line. And that is something that I think maybe is easy to do if there's no conflict, like you have nothing that really, I mean, of course, rich people still have some like things that stress them out. This is not a happy family, like
No.
in any way, but being nice to them and, being seeming like nice people is something that's easier to do.
Yes, that's the debate. I mean, I think he thinks if she makes that point,
Hmm.
I don't think that he necessarily agrees with her,
Hmm.
and he feels really bad for the driver that was let go,
Hmm.
um, And so there's a little bit of a difference here between the husband and the wife. He's, I don't want to say soft like in a bad way, but he has a soft heart. Let me say
Mhm.
that. And she does not.
Yeah. She's like, fuck these people.
um, all right, so now things really start to kick off for the rest of the movie. Our family has gotten rained out. They decide that they're going to come back early. So they're all like eating and drinking and, joking around and having some kind of deep conversation. And the doorbell goes off, but it's one of those video thingies. And so we can see it's the previous housekeeper. And she's asking if she can get in. She says she's forgotten something in the basement. So, we've seen the basement, but what we find out is behind this wall where like plum wine and all these, kind of canned goods and
Yeah.
stuff are kept. Behind that wall is a door that leads to a fucking bunker in the basement. And so, um, first, the new housekeeper, the wife, is like, "Oh, excuse me, like, where are you going?" And eventually the rest of the family members follow her down into the basement where we find her husband, who's been living in the basement since the Parks like took over the house. They didn't know that the basement was there, and this family has been hiding from debt collectors all this time. So this guy has just been living in this basement and she's been sneaking food to him. And so they're just like, what the fuck? So then the Kim family, the Mrs. Kim is like, well, I'm just going to call the police. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, and she's yeah, and the former housekeeper is in that moment very like please just feed him once a week. It won't take much. Just please, like really like begging her. But
Yeah.
then,
Um, but so she's like, and there's a stuff here that I don't understand because in the Korean language there is distinctions between younger sister and older sister.
Mm,
It's just translated in English. She says, "Come on, sis, like we're the same, and we're not well off." And Mrs. Kim is like, "Well, we are. We're doing fine." Like,
yeah.
and she goes, "Don't call me sis. Like, we're not the same." So I just wonder if she had called her like older sis or like something
Mm.
had happened in the original translation. But I don't know Korean, so I'm not sure. But then Kiyu and the rest of the family have been like eavesdropping on this whole conversation, but they all like fall. And so now they have all like fallen on top of each other into the basement. And Kiyu like says, "Oh my God, Dad, my ankle." And so the cat's out of the bag, and the old housekeeper's like, "Dad, oh my God, you guys are scammers. You're all a family." And she takes a video of them and she is like, "You let us get what we want, or I'm pushing send on this to, text Mrs. Park."
I was also going to say, I love this complete switch because then they're in the same position that she was in, and they're like, please, like,
Please.
don't do this. Like, now that they've been thrown off, like, the high horse, they're totally like, oh, you wouldn't do that, right? And I feel like this is also a great commentary about how poor people in poverty have to fucking fight for resources, it and that is what the rich want, is they want us to have
Yeah.
these intra community, like intra community fights so that we don't focus on them. It's the whole reason why we have managers, of like, get mad at this guy, don't get mad at the owner. And yeah, I feel like it's the same thing of like, there's only so much, you got to fight somebody else, and we're just focused on fighting each other than taking out the actual bad guys.
So upstairs we see that Moon Guang is like rubbing her husband's back, and she's doing an impression of the dictator of North Korea. And he's like, "Oh, honey, your impression of him is just so wonderful." And we see that the Kims are in the corner on their knees with their arms raised, like in punishment positions. And when they start to, like, slag a little bit, they're like, get your arms back up in the air. And like they're using the phone like as the threat. I'm gonna send this picture. But then the phone rings and it's Mrs. Park, and she's like, "Could you just make this Ramadan for Da Song? It's his favorite dish. We're on our way home. We're about 6 minutes away. So if you could have that right as we're walking in, that would be great." Which is an insane request under any circumstance. But
Yeah, because it's also the middle of the night. Like, what if the housekeeper had been sleeping?
yeah. So now there's like this mad scramble, and there's this fight between the two families, and the phone gets like knocked out of somebody's hand, and it's just like loose on the floor. But they're like, "Look, we got to clean up this place," because the family's coming back. And mom is like, "What the fuck is Ramadan?" And it doesn't exist, but it's a combination of udon noodles and ramen noodles. But the wife also wants her to cut up the sirloin that's in the fridge. So it's sort of like taking the people's food, and like the rich people's food, and like combining them together.
Oh.
Our Mrs. Kim figures it out, and the rest of the family. Okay, I think Jessica's under the table
Because I think it's Mr. Kim who takes the other two, the former housekeeper, to take them to the bunker.
Yeah, is he dealing with both of them, or is Kiwoo dealing with one of them?
I don't remember. First, they deal with the husband, and then they violently take care of the housekeeper.
Yeah, so they get the husband down in the basement, and they like tie him up and gag him with like duct tape and stuff. And what ends up happening is the wife, Moon Gwang, comes up to the stairs, and Mrs. Kim kicks her and like kicks her down into the bunker, and she hits her head real hard.
Yeah.
And she will eventually die from that concussion that she receives. But the Park family comes home. They're like, "Oh, it was just raining, and it just wasn't like Da Song didn't like it, so like we came home." And so there's this whole scene with Mrs. Kim and Mrs. Park at the table, and there's just a conversation about how, I think it was last year or something, Da Song came down in the middle of the night to get his own cake out of the refrigerator, and it's kind of cute, him sitting there, just eating the cake with his hands on the floor. But and this is like the only kind of jump scare in the movie, although it's not really a jump scare, but he saw a figure like arising, from the basement, and we just see like the eyes of Gae-eun like coming up. It is a really scary kind of image, and the kid kind of like had a seizure and like passed out. He was so scared. So she's just sort of telling the story as she's eating the Ramadan herself.
Yeah, because the son didn't want it.
She must have been starving because she finishes the whole thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting too.
And the daughter says, "You didn't even ask me if I wanted any. I love Ramadan."
Yeah, and she had offered it to her husband. He's like, "I'm going to bed. Like, I'm done with all this."
And I love the Miss Park has a line that's like, "Ugh, kids, they want you to just drop everything at a whim and do exactly what they want." And Miss Kim is just like,
So later, Da-song goes out into his teepee in the backyard. He's going to sleep out there tonight. And the Parks decide that they're going to sleep on the couch, which is in the same room as the table where the Kim family is hiding out underneath this table. It's very suspenseful.
And symbolic, because I believe they had been talking about cockroaches earlier, and it's like Now they are the cockroaches under the table,
Yeah.
out of sight.
Yes. Oh, that's a really good one. Because Mrs. Kim had basically compared her husband to a cockroach,
Hmm.
earlier that night. So they have this sex on the couch, and it's just like, it's not sexy to me. It's so uncomfortable.
It's like if I was there, I'd be having like the worst time of my life. Like if I was under that table, like your day can't get worse.
No, it's,
Actually,
oh,
it can.
it can. But they're also talking, I mean, the thing that really gets them going is imagining that they're poor and that she is addicted to drugs. And he's like, what if you put on um, the driver's girlfriend's like awful panties, like cheap panties? That would really get me going. And she's like, yeah, and then if you could give me drugs and I take drugs. And it's just like, you people are so sick and
Yeah.
wrong. So they're just, having sex. And then he also says that he really does like his new driver, and because he never crosses the line, even though he gets really close. But I'll tell you one thing, his smell crosses the line. And there's,
It's so heartbreaking because then we see his face and it's like he had just been defending this guy. And I've totally like had moments like this where you just realize that somebody else thinks of you in like a completely different way than you thought. And
yeah,
it's not good. Like I don't know, like when they're describing, like trying to think of how the smell is, it's just like having to listen to that be said about you and then just have to go there and be like, have your, customer service face on, like with them. It would be very hard. I feel like this is where the illusion breaks, like for all of
definitely.
them. They're not
Yeah,
nice people.
no. And it's sad because, his daughter kind of looks at him and understands that he's, being humiliated, and she turns her face away from him too. And it's just, it's rough. When the Parks like go back upstairs, Jessica and Kiyu and Kitek are able to make their escape and go
I
back
thought
to
they
their
were still
house.
sleeping.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Like they
Yeah,
have to
they
scurry
fall
out.
asleep and they have to scurry out. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And there's a bit of a suspenseful moment where Kitaka is the last one out, and like it sounds like Mr. Park stopped snoring for a second. It's like, but anyway, they make this trek back home, which is just epic. I mean, there's just like a deluge of rain, and they are making their way back down into their neighborhood. And just at various points, like he would look down at his feet at just the like flood of water that's passing him. And it's just really difficult for them to all get back home. And then when they do get back home, the sewer water is like chest deep. And
And
so
like
they have,
exploding out of the toilet. Like
yeah,
it's horrible.
there's a little cut where we see the spewing toilet at the Kim's house, and then we see Moon Guang vomiting in the
Mm.
basement toilet because she's succumbing to her concussion. And Kitek is just, I mean, defeated, and he ends up with just a tiny box of belongings, one of which is the picture of his wife with the his wife's medal that had been framed. And, of course, the Scholar's Rock.
Hmm. And I didn't fully grasp this the first time, but Ketek says to the husband living in the basement earlier, like, how can you live like this? Like this is like wild. And then he just realizes that he lives in the exact same situation. I feel like and I feel like that's just another thing that's like breaking his veneer of like, I'm not different than this guy, you know?
And I did a presentation on this movie and kind of like larger themes in Korean cinema for Quinn's class, and I had a statistic which I don't have anymore, but a lot of people live in basement apartments in
Wow.
South Korea. This is not like an isolated thing at all. But back at the Park's house, Gunsei is tied up and gagged, But Moon Guang is dying, before she dies, she tells her husband to remember Chun Sok's name. That's the name of the new housekeeper, the mother, Chung Sok. She's like, just remember that, Chung Sok. And so then we cut to a group of people who are displaced at this gym, and it's just sort of this mass of people. And you know what I thought of was the day after. Did you?
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I mean, it's just a scene that we've seen 1,000 times before of like natural disaster scenes where everyone's just sort of piled into one place. And we get the discussion of whether or not it's good to have a plan.
I love this scene.
So I just wanted to read that. So Kitak says to his son, you know what kind of plan never fails? No plan at all. You know why? Because life cannot be planned. Look around you. Do you think these people made a plan to sleep in the sports hall with you? But here we are now sleeping together on the floor. So there's no need for a plan. You can't go wrong with no plans. We don't need to make a plan for anything. It doesn't matter what will happen next. Even if the country gets destroyed or sold out, nobody cares. Got it?
That's so, like, hits very hard. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of us are dealing with this, like, crushing, like, not even apathy, but just, like, helplessness.
Yeah. And I feel like this is really a turning point for him. Like his mind has definitely been changed. And we sort of see there's a very famous picture of him when he's driving Mrs. Park the next day, but where his face is just completely, I mean, I think that's a mark. One of the marks of a good actor is you can just look at a still picture of their face and like understand completely what they're thinking and feeling.
If you've been in customer service, well, if you've been around anybody who you can't be your full true self around, there's just like, man, you just start to feel this overwhelming hatred. And she's got her feet up, like right behind his, like right next to his head, just like talking on the phone, like, yes, oh my gosh, we'd love to hear you sing. Just.
So we sort of have this montage again, planning for Da Sung's party. We have a conversation between Dai and Kyu, and he wonders if he belongs as he's looking at all the party goers gathering below. And she's like, but she's not convincing. And he enters the bunker with the Scholar's Rock to find Gung Se. He finds that Moon Guang has died. And then he's attacked by a deranged Gung Se. Before that happens, though, we have Ki-tak has taken Mrs. Park, and it's just basically her talking on the phone, inviting people last minute to her son's party. And meanwhile, Chung Suk is like setting up all these tables in this weird like military formation, like make it look like a crane's wings or something like that, just like crazy shit in the backyard. And then we'll see all the party goers are, obviously dressed really nicely. We have a cellist. We have somebody who's like an opera singer, for this child's 5th birthday or whatever. But I guess that's what rich people like. The climax of the movie involves Kyu trying to destroy Gung Se, but he, in fact, gets pummeled by the Scholar's Rock himself. And we see Kyu lying in a pool of blood at the entrance to the basement. And I thought he was dead. The first time I saw that, I'm like, well, that kid's dead. So Gung Se wants to avenge his dead wife. And so he grabs a knife from the kitchen. And
but I feel like before this was a really important moment between Mr. Park and Mr. Kim, because or were you going to mention it?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, they have this whole plan that Jessica is going to bring out the cake, and they are like the quote unquote Indians that are going to attack her, and then Da Sung is going to save the day. And Mr. Kim again makes a comment that he had made earlier, like, so I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically about his own wife, like, well, but you love her, so, that's why this is happening. And we see like Mr. Park just look very grave, and he's like, think of yourself as being at work right now, like don't cross the line.
Yeah.
And again, just like another reiteration, like, we are not friends.
Gungsei comes out into the party. His face is all bloody and he has a knife. And so he ends up stabbing Ki Jung, the sister Jessica, with the kitchen knife in front of horrified guests.
Poor
Dasong basically falls backward. He has another seizure upon seeing Gungsei, and a struggle breaks out until Chung Suk fatally impales Gungsei with a barbecue skewer, which still has like a bunch of like sausages on it. So Ki-tak is trying to take care of his daughter, but Mr. Park is like, throw me the keys to Ki-tak because
Nobody cares.
Yeah, he wants to drive his son to the hospital. In the chaos, Ki-tak sees Mr. Park's disgusted reaction to Gunsei's odor, angrily kills him with the knife.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just really important that like nobody tries to help Jessica or the daughter. Like absolutely nobody. Like they're just, we're gonna get out of here. And I feel like we also just see so much surprise on Ki-tak's face of just like, you're not even gonna help this person who is just stabbed, who's like been taking care of your son for like how many months, that was an essential part of this birthday party. It is disturbing. And
Yes.
like, it's just so like, that to me was so horrifying too.
Yeah, and we see sort of in the background that Dai has Hugh like
On her back.
on her back. He's all bloody, and so Ki-tak's like, what happened to my son too? Like he has no idea, obviously, what has happened. After Ki-tak realizes he has killed Mr. Park, he flees and he leaves the rest of the family behind. And we'll learn that as he goes down the stairs, he goes back into the house. But we don't know that right at this moment. A couple weeks later, Kyu is recovering from a brain operation and he can't stop laughing. And we get voiceover here where he's like, the cop was talking, but he didn't sound like a cop, and the doctor was talking, and he didn't sound like a doctor, and they told me that Ki Jung had died, and it just all seemed like insane to me. They say he's laughing because of his brain operation. They're like, yeah, sometimes that happens with like, but I wondered about this because just sidebar, when my dad died, I couldn't stop laughing. Like I laughed like the entire morning. Like I just really couldn't stop. And I'm like, I don't like the word hysterical, but I'm like, is that a hysterical reaction? And somebody said, no, that's a reaction that people sometimes have. It's like, in the realm of typical reactions that people can have.
Yeah.
But that's what it reminded me of. He and his mom are convicted of fraud and they're put on probation. Ki-tak is like missing. He's wanted by the authorities. And Gunsei is assumed to be an insane homeless person. And neither his nor Ki-tak's motive for the murders are known. Ki-u spies on the Park's home, and it's now occupied by a German family, or maybe a Swiss family, who don't know anything about its history. And he sees a message in Morse code from a flickering light. And I hadn't mentioned this before, but earlier Gunsei said that he had been sending like coded messages because he respects them so much for allowing him to live in this basement.
Like he has pictures of Mr. Park and he's like, thank you, Mr. Park. Like he loves him.
Yes. So Ki-tak, who escaped into the bunker, has buried Mungguang in the garden and sends the message every day, hoping that Kyu will see it. Hoping that he will see it. And there's one thing I wanted to point out. It's also another pretty famous scene of him every once in a while trying to get out of the bunker to get some food. And there's
Mhm.
a picture of him just, in the square window, kind of similar to the first shot we see of him in the beginning of the movie, but also very similar to a shot in Psycho where
Mm.
Lila Crane is like
Mhm.
trying to hide from Norman. So kind of interesting. Q is still living in the basement with his mother, and he writes a letter to Ki-tak, and he vows to earn enough money to purchase the house and
God, I
reunite
was just
someday with his
sobbing.
dad.
It's like
Uh,
this got so like heart-wrenching because then they have this like fantasy where they're going in and then they just hug him and it's just so sad.
and Bong Joon-ho had to put the last shot of the movie in, so people really got the point that that was never going to happen. And so it's snowing outside, and the camera pans down from that same basement window, so we just see Ki-woo like writing his letter to his father.
I don't know if this is intentional, but based off of like the husband that had been living in the basement, he's like hitting his head on the light at first to send them Morse code. And the Morse code like letter is so long. Like it's really long.
Yes.
And it reminded me of Johnny Got His Gun, that book, because it's about a guy hurt in war where basically every part of him has been blown away, but he's still alive and he's kind of like a medical marvel. And he finally figures out that he can communicate by slamming his head against the pillow and typing out like a message basically in Morse code. And it's extremely long. Like it's this whole entire monologue about how he wants to say, like, he wants to be wheeled around and showed to people of like, this is what war
Mm.
is. And it's really impassioned. And then at the end, of it, it's basically just like, yeah, that's never going to happen. It's
Oh.
it's really like the nurse and the doctor are just kind of like, sorry, and that's it. And like he'd been working so hard to get this message out and nothing's ever gonna come of it. And I was just thinking, I don't know if it could just be like a coincidence, but it reminds me of that just because the letter
Yeah,
is so long,
it's so long. But also, I just thought of banging your head against a wall. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
futile gesture, and I think that this movie is talking about the futility of trying to move out of poverty. There's the slimmest of chances it's most likely not going to happen. And so I feel like that's a theme that runs through a lot of Korean cinema. Just
Hmm.
sort of like, even in The Host, where, they do everything that they can possibly do to save the daughter, and they don't.
Yeah.
And there are other scenes like that. Like there's a scene in a film I really like called Chaser, where, and we've seen it in I Saw the Devil, where this kind of thing where it's just like, in an American movie for sure, the
Hmm.
hero would like bust in and like save the day, and that just doesn't happen. Even if the
Hmm.
hero busts in a Korean movie, the person's dead already or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you're too late.
Or if you get your revenge, you realize that it means nothing.
Well, that too. Do you want to hear some trivia?
Yes.
Okay. I have one phobia, ombraphobia, which I think we've had before, is the fear of rain.
I mean, God, I certainly feared that shit ever happening to me. The flooding. Oh my God, that was
I
terrifying.
do fear floods.
I mean, healthy fear for North Carolina.
Yeah. Q's job at home tutor was chosen because director Bong Joon-ho realized that sadly, the job is the only way that families from two extreme ends of the class spectrum in modern day South Korea can cross their paths convincingly in the story arc.
Yeah,
And also, I think he was an
a
English
tutor.
tutor. I was also an English tutor. Yeah, that's true. I've seen houses that I never would have seen. I've seen the inside of houses I never would have seen if I hadn't had that job.
Yeah, I think that and yeah, that I think all the choices of jobs were good. Like housekeeper is the other big one, and
Yep.
even though I personally like I always forget that people have drivers. Like you have a dedicated person who drives you, but that also makes sense. Like somebody in a fancy car who might never usually be.
Yes. Bong Joon-ho did a lot of sketches of the basic structures for the rich house. He further revealed that when the production designer consulted an actual architect to design this house, the architect saw the sketches and said, "No idiot would build houses this way. This is ridiculous." As a lot of people know already, this film won the Palme d'Or at the 2019 Cannes Film Festival, and it was the first Korean film ever to do so. And just this last year, our guy won the Best Actor award at Cannes, and he was the first Korean to ever do that. Scholar stones or landscape rocks are known as susuk in Korean, and they have a deep history in East Asia. The director's father collected them when he was younger. The practice of collecting these attractively shaped stones dates back thousands of years, but they became a fixture of Korean society during the Joseon dynasty, 1392 to 1897, when they were commonly displayed on the writing tables of Confucian scholars, hence their English name, Scholars' Rocks. This movie was shot in 77 days.
Wow. That seems really tight.
Yeah, to me it seems very tight as well. This is a crazy one. The trash can in the Park's house cost $2,300 in real life. Bong Joon-ho chose it because it doesn't make any noise and opens very smoothly. Still, he was baffled by the cost, saying, "What the fuck? What kind of idiot would buy a trash can that's going to smell anyway?"
It's true.
The song over the end credits is called "A Glass of Soju" and features lyrics written by Bong Joon-ho. "Please try this song in karaoke so I can earn some money from it," he stated. And it's Choi Woo-shik who's singing.
Oh.
The gym in the film is the same place where Bong Joon-ho filmed the quarantine sequence in The Host. He didn't realize it and was reminded by a member of the crew, "Oh, fuck," was his reply.
Wait, this trivia is so funny to me that Bong Joon-ho was never given an Americanized name like some of his fellow Koreans. And Mr. Park, oh wait.
Mr. Park goes by the name Nathan.
Yeah. And mentions that he learned his surname Bong has a meaning in the US. His first distributor in the US actually sat him down and explained what a bong is, and they gave me a real bong as a gift after the promotion of The Host, and that caused him some trouble at the airport. Just imagining him with a bong.
This is the third collaboration of the director with the cinematographer, Hong Kyung-pyo. And Hong was also the cinematographer of 2018's Korean cinema at Cannes, Burning, which is a beloved movie. Oh, one thing about the mud. For the flood scene of the poorhouse, face mud mask was used to give the sewage water its brownish look.
They did a good job. Man, this guy in sewer water, he's so good at making it. Well, I guess the first one, it wasn't made. It was real.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's a whole section on that on the DVD, too, of them having to clean up, like, dead animals. And
oh, my God.
It was a whole process to shoot down in those sewers.
I hope they got paid well. Maybe they were just...
Probably not.
Yeah, probably were not given hazard pay for that.
What does Letterboxd have to say about it? Gulwern, that's probably like a Welsh name or something. Anyway, gave it 5 stars. I'd sell my soul to watch this first time again.
Honestly, I don't understand that because I feel like I'm gaining more appreciation the more time. Like, I want to watch it again to get even more. Like, I feel like the second watch was better for me, honestly.
Yeah. There are some movies I feel like that about, but not this one.
Yeah.
Toby gave it 5 stars. Maybe I don't want to be rich. AJ gave it 5 stars. When I first heard about this movie, I thought it would be about something like The Worms Cats Have. It wasn't, but I loved it still. Vusal gave it 5 stars. A dark comedy mixed with anxiety-inducing suspense, as well as some elements of drama and horror, definitely got me gagged. Okay, this I need help with. Got me gagged.
how to explain? It's like I'm I don't even feel like I could explain it. Like I feel like gagged is kind of like it kind of like
UrbanDictionary.com. Do people still use UrbanDictionary.com?
I do.
Okay.
Let's see. No, none of this is it. Gay. Okay, it's as a sign of amusement or excitement. It is mostly used in the context of a relationship or drag performance. Quote, Miss Thing, that Queen Vanessa Kool-Aid had me gagging.
Okay.
So I guess it's just like, if you get gagged, it's kind of like, that was really great. It's like, it's one of those things where I feel like you need to see examples of it, and then it's like how to, you can't describe how Coke tastes. I can't describe what gagged means.
Okay, and this is a weird thing to ask my son, but does it have anything to do with blowjobs?
Maybe.
Well, Chloe gave it 5 stars. Rewatched this for a paper I'm writing. Still so stressful to the point I had to watch Peppa Pig after because my brain cells weren't brain celling. Dharma Bombs gave it 5 stars. Want a comedy? Want a thriller? Want a drama? Want a horror? Want a social commentary? Well, here's Parasite for your viewing pleasure. Here's a new feature within a feature, and this new feature is called What Does Winnick Have to Say About It? So Eric Winnick gave it 3.5 stars. Parasite may not be a film you're supposed to, quote, enjoy, but it is one that you'll be left thinking about for days. So much to chew on here, but for sheer entertainment value, sorry folks, I preferred Snowpiercer and The Host. Though they didn't crawl into my brain the way this did. Luckily, there's room for all types of films in this world, and Bong Joon-ho makes them all. Just wish this one had lived up to the hype. We're going to have to fight you.
Yeah.
Eric. Do you want to come to North Carolina, or do you want us to come to New York? Because we're going to have to brawl over this.
Put him up. I feel like, to me, this movie is so visually like beautiful.
Yes.
That even when there's moments that like maybe there's not much dialogue or anything, it's like I'm blown away by, because even the visuals in the basement, like the semi-basement apartment, are beautiful. Like just the whole thing is beautiful. So I don't know, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong. I'm just kidding. Am I?
Who knows? The Lego Batman, gave it a 0.5 star. Haven't seen it yet. I don't like this trend on Letterboxd. Fuck y'all who do this.
Why would you?
It's not funny.
People, sometimes, a funny little thing for a review, okay, it's cute, but sometimes it is not cute. It's just not cute.
You've heard it here. Whoa-hos. Lola Morgan gave it a 0.5 star. I was expecting a good movie, at the very least. Boring and dumb socialist crap.
Go to hell. Literally go to hell, Lola Morgan. You sound like dumb conservative crap. Just saying.
Dunn Baxter gave it a 0.5 star. Bong Joon-ho is the real villain for trying to turn the basement dweller into a crazed psycho killer. Everyone in this film is a piece of shit except for the man that controls the lights. He should have been riding off into the sunset. Bong Joon-ho, you are fired.
You missed it. You missed the point. And, that's okay. It's okay to be wrong, but you did miss the point,
Mm-hmm.
That was on purpose.
Poppy Cherry gave it a 0.5 star. Not my vibe. Left to make noodles.
But did you make Ramdan? Because that shit looked good.
It did look good. How would we rate this? Bowls of Ramdan?
Yeah, bowls of Ramdan. I'm going to give it 5.
I'm going to give it 4.75, only for that one scene that I don't think is acted very well. But other than that,
you have better perspective than me, because I didn't know.
I made a career. I mean, out of being drunk. So I'm y'all. I didn't. This little TMI, but I'm going to be 19 years sober on Saturday.
Woo!
And that had to happen because I put a lifetime of drinking into the 18 years that I drank uh, professionally.
Yeah.
I do have experience. I can speak on this.
Hmm. I mean, there are certainly times where I see actors when they're just like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it's like, okay.
The real trick, I was taught this when I was in my brief acting career, is to try not to be drunk.
Yeah.
That's the
You
trick.
also need more like 1,000-yard stares. I feel like sometimes a drunk person just kind of like looks at you and it's like, what are you looking at? They don't even know.
They don't know. They're just trying to gather their thoughts like into a cohesive.
And you're so right. They're probably thinking, don't act drunk. Don't act drunk.
Exactly. But what have we learned from this movie, Mac?
Oh, man.
There's a lot.
Rich people aren't your friends. Hey, I don't think any of you listening to this pod would be this person, but if you're a loser who does things like cape for Elon Musk, sorry, he's never going to give you money. You'll continue being poor and he'll continue being rich, and you caping for him on Twitter does nothing but make you look pathetic.
I mean, I just think capitalism is super violent and doesn't
Evil.
it doesn't give a fuck about you.
It's a system where there's winners and losers, and most of us are losers. I remember something very interesting. I remember when we were learning about like Romeo and Juliet and how there was like, when it was like actually in Shakespeare times, performed, there was like the poor section, which was just like ground that, just the dregs.
The groundlings, yeah.
Yeah, the groundlings. And like, I remember as a kid thinking like, well, I would be like a princess probably. And
Yeah,
I feel like I mentioned it to either you or dad, and you were like, oh, honey, no, we'd be in the ground. And that like really was a good lesson for me because like, you'll know if you are that 1%, and like, you're not. So like, because there's so many people who are like, you think 40 hours a week is a job? I work 80 hours. Do you want an award? Your life is bad. Great. Mm-hmm. Good for you. Like we shouldn't have to live in a world where you have to work that long. Why are you proud of it?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's just sad. And it's very difficult, even in the USA, to climb out of poverty. The land of opportunity, that's a fucking lie. If you have certain racial advantages and if you have a certain amount of wealth that you were born into, maybe. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, you're pretty much, fucked. And yeah, I think that's so funny when you were saying the thing about the groundlings. It just reminds me of people who, when they talk about reincarnation, they were always like Cleopatra or like Napoleon or something. Like, no, you were just some schmo.
You were a peasant, fool. That's the whole point. There's only like 10 people who run the world, and all of us else are, bugs to them.
Well, bugs again. Yeah. Yep. All comes back to bugs. All comes back to Goodnight Mommy. Would we watch this again?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it several times. I'm sure I will see it again. Okay, my boyfriend, who doesn't watch a lot of movies, much less like international movies, stood up in my living room at the end of this and clapped at the screen. So I don't know if anyone hasn't seen this movie yet. I don't know why you have listened this far into the podcast, but I mean, if you haven't, go just do yourself a favor.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we shut this one down?
Let's shut it down.
I mean, this was I think this was your idea. I called it Mom's Picks, but this was actually Mac's Picks. I'm glad we got to have this combo.
We love him. We love both of these men.
Yes, deeply.
Deeply.
Thank you for joining us for this episode and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us, truly. Next time, Mac's Picks involve movies related to dementia. We will be looking at The Taking of Deborah Logan from the US and Relic from Australia. We would welcome your support in the form of a 5-star review or thumbs up on your preferred listening platform. Hey, Mac, what do you have going on?
Well, you can follow my art Instagram at Macaritaville, and I also have a Tumblr. That would be tumblr.macaritaville.com. I don't know. You can find me there.
Remember, Wohos, we love you and don't go into the basement.